Hi, and welcome to another episode of Nursing Your Way to Wealth, where a mental health nurse and an accountant talk about wealth creation, personal development, and financial independence in the UK to help you live the life you deserve. And today, Alex and I are going to discuss something that impacts everyone monthly, and that is bills or monthly expenses. So, the idea from this, I'm pretty sure, came from Alex's favourite song by Destiny's Child, which is Bills, Bills, Bills. I'm pretty sure he listens to it on his walk in and out of work each day. But generally, I'm joking, by the way. Our idea here is to be a bit more aware of your expenses each month, to question whether you need it or you want it, and just some thoughts from both of us, from a an accountant's head, that's Alex's head, and from an emotional mental health head, that's mine, about how can we can reduce a little bit of stress, a bit of anxiety, free up some cash flow for better use.
Yeah, hi Alex, and hi everybody. And to confirm, my favorite Destiny's Child song is not actually Bills, Bills, Bills. I've never heard it, but I'm definitely going to listen to it after the show. And yeah, so it's a big topic, and I think something that obviously everybody's going to be aware of. And I think there's some. Hopefully, we can cover some fairly easy, quick wins that people can implement in their day-to-day life to free up a little bit of cash flow, some of which are quite obvious and others where you might be a bit more unusual or might not kind of obviously spring to mind. And it's probably worth covering the costs, thinking of them in like wider buckets of kind of the big three costs. So one is like housing costs, and I think we've covered mortgages and not buying too much house in previous episodes, but more about the operating of your household. And then the other one is food and your kind of your food shops and going out for food. And then travel is the other one, so that your commuting costs. So yeah, Alex, I don't know which one you want to cover off first.
Whatever was first in the list. So just remind me which one you said first. You said traveling or commuting, housing, and food.
It was the housing, food, and traveling, but we can But I guess with housing, we could start there. And so we've I think yeah touched upon before about the implication of taking on too much house, and hopefully you've got a mortgage that's within your kind of um ideally that kind of 30-40% of your take home pay kind of range. But I think when you start thinking about your house, like insurance, utility bills, kind of the ongoing cost of your house, like insurance is a big one. So you'd probably have contents insurance as well as buildings insurance. So little things such as, making sure that you negotiate, get several quotes when you come to kind of renew your insurance, not over insuring your house. I think quite commonly, like with buildings insurance, like the value of that insurance is it's literally the cost to rebuild your property as opposed to the value of your house. So say if your house might cost, I don't know, £100,000 to rebuild, but it's valued at £300,000, you'd want to ensure it is the rebuild value. Using sites such as, like the comparison sites like Go Compare and the Meerkat, uh, compare the Meerkat market. They're good websites just to get some quotes and ideas, and always try and renegotiate with your current provider. Saves a bit of a hassle with the kind of utilities as well. Um, Actually, before we move on to that, really good point that Alex you raised before in the prep was around paying upfront versus paying monthly. There's often quite like a hidden interest charge by paying for like insurance over a monthly basis versus upfront, and you could be quite surprised at actually how much that can be. So, it's probably not uncommon to have like an implied interest rate of probably like 15-20% on some of these products. So if you're able to pay it up front, you could probably save yourself tens, if not hundreds of pounds, purely by having the benefit of paying for something up front as opposed to paying it over a monthly basis. And not just with insurance products, but with other things that we'd looked at. So Amazon Prime is a good example. So I think most people have got some form of Prime subscription, and you can pay upfront for Amazon Prime for £70 for the year, or it's £8 per month, and that equates to £96. So you're paying £26 extra for the privilege of paying over time, and that is about 37% of the actual upfront cost. So with something like that, you're actually much better paying upfront for it. And this principle will probably be applied to loads of different products, but just something to be really aware of. Yeah, Alex, I don't know if you've come across that, and yeah, what your thoughts are on that.
Sure. And we did a bit of chat before the episode, and I realised actually I've fallen foul of something we've literally just discussed. So my wife has Amazon Prime, and I'm pretty sure she pays monthly for that. I have Audible for audiobooks when I commute, and I also pay monthly for that as well. And I just didn't click until Alex, you said earlier about that you can pay them up front. So basically for the last couple of years of my life, it's cost me an extra £52 a year just not understanding that, or not putting two and two together. So that's certainly something this weekend I'm going to rectify. In terms of say some of your kind of household bills, specifically insurances. So I was doing a bit of googling whilst you were talking, and a lot of insurers, according to just some statistics, right? The average rate of monthly interest charged is 23%, 23.37 across these are car insurers. So if you're paying your insurance premiums monthly, you'll actually be paying an extra 23% on top. So at that stage, you might as well put it on a credit card and be paying extra interest that way. So if you can, if you can pay for your car insurance, payment up front, for every £100 you put in for the year, it's going to save you £23 of that, which is a huge amount of money when you think about it. And it's just another cost that goes a little bit unnoticed. And it's another saving you can make just by having a little bit of spare cash, or saving up some of the cash each month into a pot to pay for that. You're actually going to be much, much better off long term from doing that. So if you combine the subscription model we've just discussed, the car insurance, I'm sure there are other examples, you could be well on the way to saving a few £100 per year, perhaps more if you're part of a family and you've got multiple or family accounts for things. And it's money that you've worked hard for, that you've paid tax on to then pay out again. So really scrutinize what you've got going out, and see if there's any way that you can get it for less. I mean, if we think about car insurances, it's something that I deal with for my household, and every year I sort both mine and my wife's out, and I'll run a comparison quote, and I'll get my renewal from my old insurance company. Rarely is the renewal the cheapest option. So what I normally do first off, to make it as quick as possible, is do an insurance quote, ring my current insurer, tell them I found it for however much money less, depending on how brave you are, ask them if they'll match it, and then say, is there anything more you can knock off? And I've had that work a couple of times where they've just discounted 25 quid, 30 quid, sometimes up to £40, just because I asked for it, off what they're saying is their already lowest price. So really, it's a little bit competitive. There are plenty of insurers you can go with and you can choose. So, and the insurance companies will want your business. So they'll work harder for you to take your money off you, to provide you with a service and a product. So you've got nothing to lose just by asking the question. I mean, the worst case answer is no. You can't have save any more money. And the best case is you're 40 quid up for what will be a 5 or 10 minute phone call. So it's 100% worth your time, and it's worked out really well for me in the last, since I've been driving, which is now nearly 17 years.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I'm similar. It's those phone calls to the kind of insurers and utility providers where you just, when you come up to the renewal, you're it's very rare that they're going to be giving you the best price. And actually, just by calling up, do a bit of research before and go in there with some facts and figures, it can be one of the most like profitable uses of your time. Because if you do that three, if you've got 3 or 4 different providers for different insurances and in utilities, researching, negotiating, it can really lead to hundreds of pounds saved, which, invested over the long term is, can really, really make a difference. So yeah, good to hear you've had some experience on that. And yeah, I say I'm similar. It's routine. All of our insurances seem to align at the same time of the month. So next month is our uh is the big day where we'll be out negotiating with our different providers.
For you to pay out a load of money, hoping that you never need to ring them in an emergency. So I think insurances are some of the best money that you'll hopefully waste, banking on the fact that you won't need it. So I think it's the same for any kind of home insurance, car insurance, life insurance, especially. You really, or certainly I really hope that I never have to phone any of those companies and need to really take full advantage of that policy. But it's something that reduces some anxiety for me. It helps mitigate what could be potentially massive costs. So it's yeah, certainly much cheaper than going it yourself, especially when you get legal things involved. And it's yeah, it can be really difficult and very, very expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the way to look at insurance is as part of like your wider financial planning is it's kind of like your defense. So you have your good offense, your, you know, earning and investing and being aggressive and, paying down debt. That's you on the front foot, but it's also good to defend, and, insurance is a great way of doing that. The next big cost bucket I wanted to look at is food. So this is probably after housing is probably the second largest expense, and one that with a bit of planning and preparation, you can keep a control on food costs while still enjoying really nice food. So one thing I wanted to raise on this was about batch cooking and meal planning. I think it's something I do and I've been doing for a number of years now. And, it involves looking, say, 2 weeks ahead, planning what food you want to eat. And I usually have maybe some form of curry, a pasta, like ragu type thing, maybe a Thai dish or a stew. So a few kind of versatile ingredients, which then also a few meals, which all I would need to do is then prepare the thing that goes with it. So everything that might be rice or pasta. And I think you'll find, say, like with, curry is a good example. One, it's as easy to make 8 portions of curry as it is two. It just takes a little bit more time of chopping, like you're chopping your vegetables. And it's also really good at it's easy to bulk out, especially with cheap ingredients such as like lentils or chickpeas or beans and things like that. You can bulk out your meal to make it slightly cheaper, and it doesn't always have to, not eating as much meat is good for the planet, but good for your arteries as well. And so looking for food and meals which are easier to bulk. And then what I personally do, so it's usually I have a day at the weekend where I just dedicate to this, but I make, must be about 15, 20 portions of different meals, put them in the freezer. I've got some good Tupperware. Glass Tupperware lasts for a lot longer than plastic Tupperware, and it doesn't tend to have that funny smell on it. And then I'll put everything in the freezer. So my freezer is full of home cooked, good quality meals. And then when we come in from work, I'll have got it out the night before, so I know what I'm eating when I get home. And it is then literally a matter of cooking rice, pasta with it. And so not only does it really help reduce cost, it takes out a lot of the decision fatigue and um, potential distractions that you have, and that easy thing of just reaching for the takeaway or the Uber Eats menu and getting something delivered. And it's home cooked, it's healthy, and it's going to save you a lot of money in the long run. And it also helps when you go shopping, you know exactly what food you need to buy. So you're not distracted in the supermarket because there's loads of nice things in supermarkets, and to go in and kind of think, if you don't have a plan when you're going around there, it's really easy to buy all these really colourful, cool processed foods which look delicious. But then you almost come out, you spent 100 quid and you don't really have any meals. So going in with a plan based off your meal plan, it will help. And I think especially if you have children, would really, really help with your kind of organization of the household and also help reduce costs. So I'm super passionate about food prep and meal planning. If you have enough variety, you don't tend to get bored of what you're eating. And I try not to have the same thing day after day, which is why I have like maybe 3 or 4 different dishes in my freezer at any one point just to mix it up. But I find it has been a really useful way of keeping on top of food costs. And yeah, it takes a load of decision out and when I'm tired and hungry when I get home. So that is my one of my big tips is have a go at embracing batch cooking, get a slow cooker. Yeah, and there's no such thing as a bad meal. So yeah, I couldn't be more passionate about that. I don't know, Alex, I'd be keen to hear your thoughts on my food prep uh ramble.
Sure, I've got a few. I feel like you're probably the most organised cook that I've ever met. I imagine everything gets chopped and sorted and everything, you know exactly where everything is. I'm interested in the glass Tupperware. Does it have a lid? How does that work? You're not afraid of dropping one, perhaps? Hopefully not. Maybe you're just super careful. But I think there's a couple of things. If you are firstly, if you can't cook, things are expensive. Buying pre-packaged, pre-made takeaway food or anything like that is going to cost you conservatively 5 times the amount of what you could make it for. Secondly, if you have something like a slow cooker or you're happy to have like something like a vegetable curry, you can get so much more for your money than you can by doing it that way and making it yourself. Yes, it takes a bit of time, a bit of extra effort, and some seasoning probably to make. And but you can save yourself an awful lot. I mean, if you wanted to compare working out what a home cooked meal would cost you in terms of ingredients, and then compare it with buying whatever amount of food you would need pre-packaged to replicate that, and it'll be, in my opinion, extortionately more expensive to do. And it's again, it's just another method of being a bit more intentional with the money you have. Secondly, just to close some previous loops, just regarding phoning certain like insurers and things, some people can think that's a little bit of like conflict, but people who answer those phones, they're professionals in that field. They get asked these questions all the time. You will not be the only person to ask them that day, probably not even that hour. They're very much used to it, and they'll in no way see it as a conflictual. They're just people trying to save money. So be a little bit brave. It won't be as bad as you think, and you could end up keeping a lot more of your hard-earned money. In terms of kind of slow cooking, it's what a slow cooker is probably one. I think it's one of my favorite kitchen appliances, apart from a coffee machine, to be honest. So it's something that I'm not a good cook. My wife's got Italian heritage, and she's very good at cooking, which is really puts me to shame. And my idea of cooking is just bung many things in a slow cooker, turn it on, and leave, and come back 8 to 12 hours later, and your food is done. So that's really my get out of jail thing when I'm not really sure what I want. I just think like maybe I'll Google some slow cooker recipes, bung in whatever I have at home, and add anything to the list. And it's useful because if you say you go shopping at the right time and you've got loads of like bargain yellow sticker stuff where you can pick things up for like 50p that should be a fiver. If you can form that into a slow cooker recipe, you can use it almost instantly, or you can pop it in the freezer. And again, it saves you a bit more money. Another thing that I've found actually has reduced my general food bill is I don't go shopping now when I'm hungry. I don't go in on the way home from work. I really try hard, if I am going to go shopping, to make sure I've had dinner or I've eaten something, so I don't get massively distracted. I also use either, a bit archaic, but a paper list, or my wife and I have like a to-do list that we share on our phones, and when she updates it, it updates mine and vice versa. So I only get things that are on the list. Sometimes this annoys my wife because I'll say, I'm not bothered what it is, so long as it's on the list, I'll get it. If it's not on the list, I will forget about it, even though you've told me as I've been walking out the door. So yeah, so make sure you add it. So it's something that if I write it down, it's an intentional thing. So if I write down like my Kit Kats or something, it's like a two-step process. I have to write it and then I have to buy it, and I'm more likely to question whether I actually need it or was I just hungry at the time. So, as a combination, these things might save you a little bit of money in each area, but as a combo, like they can add up and it can really save you a huge chunk of money. So imagine you've been through this exercise, you've printed some bank statements, you've been through the list, and you've saved yourself, say, £20 a month, for example. And I've just done some quick calculations about what you can do with that money. So we would suggest you invest it for the long run. So if you were to carve out £20 worth of savings of your hard-earned money at 5% accrued interest per year, compound interest for 30 years, if you left it well alone, that £20 a month would turn into 16,600. If you can save a little bit more and it's £50 a month, by the same 5%, 30 years becomes 41,000. If you can save £150 a month, it becomes 124,000. And if you can save £500 a month at 5% per year, compounded for 30 years, comes £416,000. So those are humongous amounts of money from saving a little bit here and there, putting it in the right place, and letting compounding do its thing.
Yeah, wow, there's some big numbers actually. When you start, and I think it's almost a bit of a mindset shift because when you start seeing, oh, it's only this amount, or it's only that amount, it won't make a difference. And it's like, not in the week, it won't make a difference, and not in the month. But if you can consistently free that up, that money, and put it to work and invest it, you can kind of see the results. And it's it almost just seems so odd how large a number can get from like with those invested numbers. But that is the magic of compounding, and the longer you leave something, the bigger the numbers. So yeah, amazing. Yeah, thanks for putting those together. And I guess wouldn't yeah, just to follow up quickly on my glass Tupperware. So the base, like almost the bowl itself is glass, but it does have a plastic lid, and but they're microwavable. They wash really easily, and I've had mine probably now for about 4 or 5 years. And as long as you wash your lids properly, the the glass it's a bit like a Pyrex type um feel. So it's quite thick glass, and yeah, really versatile. I think they can even go in the oven, but I've never done that. But yeah, I'd really recommend that because I think I've had plastic ones, and especially the kind of food I cook, it tends to stain and it tends to get a bit of a funny smell to it. So in these glass ones, really recommended. And yeah, the slow cooker, similar to you, Alex, is definitely my favorite kitchen appliance. And I think when it's cooking, it uses the same amount of energy as a light bulb, so super efficient as well when you consider the cost of electricity to actually make your food as opposed to using an oven. I guess the other larger cost is on traveling, and this is more thinking about commuting. And for me, I mean, I get a train. My partner, she drives. If there are the options to either get the bus, walk, or cycle, those are the other ways of obviously reducing the cost of your commuting. I did seriously consider my office is 60 miles away from my house as the crow flies, and I genuinely was considering, and I did all the calculations on getting an electric bike to try and cut out my Southwestern Rail overground train that I need to get. And it two and a half hour cycle, even with an e-bike through London traffic, wasn't worth it. But what I do, I actually get the train into central London, and then I could get the tube, but I walk partly to I save a bit of the money, but mainly for health reasons. I like to walk, clears my head, and also gets my steps in, and it's good for the heart. But that's the other thing is really just, I guess, trying to look at alternatives to take in, for driving, especially like short distances. It's amazing how fast you can actually walk and how far you can go, albeit you need to just factor in some good shoes. yeah, I guess that's the other thing for me was, yeah, the other big cost was on the travel. But yeah, Alex, I don't know if you have any how you go about commuting and if you've changed anything that way.
Yeah, I certainly haven't considered getting an e-bike for what is a 30-mile commute for me along a motorway. That's just never happening in uh, in my wildest dreams. I'm definitely not healthy enough for that, and I wouldn't want to risk it, to be honest with you. So yeah, I'm very much drive and park somewhere and walk a little bit if I have to. But at the same time, I mean with cars, they're a huge expense. So this probably should have talked about before food, but I've never owned any cars that I couldn't buy outright. So I buy them relatively cheaply, but in good condition, and I drive them until they are like beyond dead. My last car I had, I drove it all the way up to 244,000 miles, and I bought it on 160 something. And by the time it was done, my mechanic was like, please get rid of this pile because it's going to cost you a fortune and it's going to take me a long time to fix it. And I really don't want to do it. So eventually I reluctantly let it go and bought another similar car. So yeah, it's just thinking, I mean, I do some basic home mechanics as well, just to save a bit of money. Nothing, I don't touch any brakes or suspension or anything like that. I just do oil changes and yeah, and just like exhausts and stuff. So the simple stuff that would take a garage a bit of time. So yeah, it saves me a bit of money that way. The only other thing I had, you said in terms of favorite kitchen appliance, I've had a quick think about it. For me, it would be espresso machine number one, dishwasher number two, and then slow cooker number three in that order. Not that anybody's particularly bothered, but just for correctness and all, that's kind of where I would go with it.
That's interesting. Yeah, mine is probably slow cooker, but I don't have a coffee machine, and my dishwasher has actually been broken for about 3 years, so I've just been hand washing old school and quite enjoy it. So yeah, my other appliance would therefore be my probably my hob and my frying pan.
Hold on. Wait, let's just pause for a minute. Your dishwasher's been broken for 3 years and you hand wash all of your things.
Yeah, but there's only two of us, and there's not a load of washing up, so it's not a big deal for me.
Really? So there's two of us in our household as well and our dog, and we use our dishwasher probably 4 times a week, probably more, to be honest with you. I think I just really dislike washing up, so I'm very happy to pay for that to go away. I don't find washing dishes mindful in any way, shape, or form. And I've read a bunch of books about kind of monks, and they say be mindful and be one when you're with washing dishes. I'd much rather stand outside and feel the earth than yeah, be mindfully washing dishes. So, do you want me to buy you a dishwasher, or are you happy not having one?
Oh, we're fine not having one, but thanks for the offer. I'll I might take you back up on it in a few years, maybe. But I think you raise a really good point regarding cars, and it's probably worth an episode in itself using some examples. But I'm completely with you on minimizing the cost of a car because it's probably, I mean, I've never had a car payment. I'm similar to you. That the cars I've owned or we've owned, we've purchased as cash, and they've been used, and we continue to use them until they are no longer drivable. And yeah, I just can't fathom why people would spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds a month on a car, and some of these leases where you don't actually own the car at the end of it. It just seems like such an opportunity cost, like such a high cost for me, and that you could be investing that money elsewhere and just have a run around car. Yeah, I I'm confused to this day on how many people have got car payments, and as if anybody's that bothered about what other people are driving. It seems, yeah, one of my bugbears. Don't get me wrong, I love cars. I think they're really cool to look at, but yeah, I'm quite happy with our little Renault Clio, to be honest, and hopefully that lasts for a long time.
Yeah, I think it should do if you look after it, keep on top of maintenance and things. But I've never been one to pay monthly for things. I think it's just a lesson my dad really instilled into me, even though he did lease cars himself. So maybe he regretted it. I don't know. But I've heard of a lot of my friends have got like finance cars, and I asked them a little bit about it, and they're not really sure what kind of, whether it's like hire purchase or it's some other form of rental or whatever it may be. My knowledge, as you can tell, is not very good on that kind of thing. But it kind of gets you in this trap of, because if you have a brand new car, it performs as well as a brand new car can perform. You get all these extra features that perhaps you wouldn't get in an older car. And when the lease expires in 2 or 3 years' time or something, the manufacturer then will come back to you and they'll say, you can continue paying us the same amount and we'll just give you a new one. And you're on the hook then, and you have to make this really difficult decision of, actually, yes, you work really hard. No, I don't want to downgrade the car because my hedonic treadmill's got used to having heated, cooled seats in the front and the back, and a fan in the back for your dog, and all sorts of other wizardry in terms of tech now. And it genuinely would feel like a huge step back, and that's why I think people don't want to do that. And I kind of get it. So really, really think about it before you sign up for these things. And another anecdote about cars, but I think we do need a whole episode on it. But one of my friends who I did my clinical training with, one of the first things she bought was like a finance car, and I asked her about it, and she said she picked the lowest figure on the list that the car dealership person gave her. So it sounds like she's been given a list of monthly payments and she's just picked a figure that suits her. And if you pick the lowest one, you're going to be paying it for the longest, which means you're less likely to build up any equity. And it just ends up long term costing you much more. So I was just astounded by that, but it seems to be a really common thing. And even now, I drive a car that's, when was it made? Let me look out the window. 2010, which is now 14 years old. Perfectly good in every sense. It's definitely not new. It's a bit scratched up, but it gets me from A to B reliably, and it's comfortable. And I've got no desire to change it for anything more. I'm perfectly happy to have a car that it does more than I need it to do. So I think we need perhaps a deeper episode into it and the pros and cons, I guess, of that. If you do finance or lease a car and there's a benefit we've overlooked, just email us and let us know. But we could perhaps do an episode on real world costs of those things and what you could be doing with the money you save, and perhaps how wealthy you could be when you're a bit older, and what else you could do with the money.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good episode, especially as well from the psychological aspect, because I think it's one of those things where cars are very visible as a source of, as a sign of your status. And yeah, I think it's really worth going into a bit of detail on, look at some real world examples of current cars, and if you were to buy those versus a used car and invest the difference, what that could mean. I think that could be really valuable.
Yeah, I think let's do it. And I'll just close two things. One, Morgan Housel put it really well in his book, The Psychology of Money. If you see someone driving a really fancy car, you're not looking at the person itself, admiring them. You're thinking about you and how you would feel to drive a car like that. You're not looking at the person doing the driving. So, and I've heard people put it like, people buy expensive cars to impress people they don't know, with sometimes money that they don't have, or future money they haven't earned yet. And the other kind of thought in this kind of area is, this podcast is all about investing for your future and financial independence. So if you can bring your amount down that you need to spend, so if, say, your car costs you, I don't know, £200 a month, for example, that's going to come out at £2,400 per year extra that you need to account for once you hit your FI numbers. So if you can remove that as a cost, the total amount you needed to be invested, and I don't have that maths off the top of my head, it comes down an awful lot. So it actually saves you an awful lot of time on the back end of your working career, and it could mean you retire, I don't know, a couple of years earlier, 5 years earlier, perhaps, something like that. And I would always argue that that is a better use of the money than driving a car around that you'll worry about a lot.
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent point. And I think it's always with any cost saving, it is that if, as long as you can eliminate that cost, you reduce the amount of money that you need to be pulling from a portfolio, and therefore your time to retirement reduces. So yeah, Yeah, really good point there.
I've just done the maths, and if that were the case, to save yourself a £200 monthly expense, at £2,400 a year times 25 is 60 grand. So you need that much less in your portfolio to sustain that amount. So if you think about it like that, you take the money you've saved every month, you times that by 25 to get your financial independence number. You then need that much less, and actually it can be a drastic amount less. And what it could do is bring your retirement date, or at least the option to retire or to have FU money, way sooner. And it just gives you much more freedom and autonomy over your time. So really consider it in that way of thinking. Think about future you as well as current you. Alex, is there anything more? Any other thoughts that you've had that you want to bring in before we close?
No, I mean, I think that's a nice way to sum it up with the numbers there. I think that's just highlights the importance of being on top of your bills.
Cool. All right, let's park it there. Thank you everyone for coming back and listening to us. We just had some more stats through from our editing chap who keeps an eye on those things, and things are all pointing up. So appreciate each and every one of you, including that single soul listening from New Zealand. So hello to you. Alex, I'm going to go and have some dinner that's been slow cooked. And I imagine you're going to go and listen to Destiny's Child, right?
Already queued on the playlist.
Sweet. Thanks, everyone. See you next time. None of what we discuss on the show is to be considered financial or health advice, and we recommend you always do your own research or consult an independent financial advisor or a doctor when making your financial or health decisions.